honored to welcome you tonight for our launch of the book and later on, hopefully, for a very engaged discussion. This book that you find in your folder has come a very, very long way. Although it looks very fresh, but it actually started more or less in 2016, and the cooperation between the University of UNAM, University of Namibia, and what it used to be Department of Sociology. Please excuse me, I'm not up to date entirely. With the Department of Sociology and with us, the Ebert Stiftung, to form partners as the Forum for Experts on Social Protection. And this book actually is a collection. It's a compilation of quite outstanding lectures we have been observing, following, enjoying throughout these years. Obviously, not all of them are entailed, it was impossible, but these are already quite a number, and they're tackling more or less really relevant aspects of the issue of social protection in Namibia. And I think I may say that we as partners of FEST, we are very, very proud that this book really has come to see the light by now. And we are also very happy that we are here today to discuss it, to actually really think about jointly about social protection and what it means for Namibia. This is why we have this set up, because we want to engage in dialogue, and hopefully this won't be the last opportunity for us to do that. It's again maybe a start. But for now, I would like to really express my vote of thanks, first of all, to the long-standing partners at UNAM, at the so-called Department of Sociology, and let me please mention explicitly Professor Dr. Kangira and Ms. Ndeshi Nampula. You have been going with us a very, very long way, and we really are looking forward to to continue our partnership, obviously, and extend it and maybe even strengthen it under the new dean, Dr. Mosi Mane. I'm still practicing. Yes, not anything there. Now, what have we been doing all the time? Why are we so proud? I think we have been really tackling really important issues, maybe even unearthing a few of them. And they have been put in perspective, and that obviously calls for dialogue. Please allow me to say a few words about why we of FES think that social protection is so important. Actually, all over the world, we have offices in 107 countries, and everywhere we are working on social protection. And we are doing that for a very good cause and reason. And the reason being actually threefold. Two of them are related to issues of human rights. They are kind of value-based. Because we do believe, I think we all, like all of us, in the SDGs, especially in the first three of them, the right of any human to enjoy a healthy life without fear of poverty and hunger. So that's the very first one. But we go beyond that, because we also believe that no one should be born into a condition that is abject with poverty and be bound to, to stick there and, being deprived of any individual development. So this is another reason why we think that social protection really matters a lot to, every country, anywhere. And the last one is not the least, and this is actually a socio-economic one, because if people are deprived to take part actively and to their full potential in a society's life, then the society will suffer, socially and economically. So these are the three major reasons that keep us driving. And I don't want to forget the most, the really important things. So I would like to encourage you, as Paul already did, to later on, when we come to the fishbowl discussion, to really come to the forefront, grab one of these sheets and engage. Okay, that was very important for me. And I would like to round off by saying another vote of thanks. I already extended it to our partners, very importantly. But I would also like, first of all, obviously, to thank you for coming here, to making time. It's Thursday evening. It's, I know you are all very busy, so thank you very much for coming. I would really also like to thank Paul, of course. He's come all the way from thank you very much for your commitment. And again, last but not least, my thanks go obviously to the team of FES Namibia and FIS Media Africa. You've done a wonderful job. I think we are all enjoying that setup tonight. Please stay on, keep on enjoying, and thank you so much. Yes, thanks.
Established Freya. I don't want to waste time on that, but let me recognize the presence of Dr. Yamushilenga. Now, Dr. Yamushilenga is a historian, so he knows that when you are asking somebody to tell a history, it must be 5 hours at least. You know? But these people are now asking me to tell a history within 5 minutes, plus I must also tell how we came up with it. I mean, I will try my best. Yeah, it was early 2016 that Heiner Naumann, the then president representative of the FES, invited me to visit this focus. So at this meeting, he narrated to me that he finds it necessary that I assist him in establishing a body that would drive the agenda of social protection in Namibia. And we exchanged ideas on that. We had many subsequent meetings with Inge also thereafter, and I was tasked to attend to the following. One was to suggest a name that would be befitting such a body. Two was to scout for an organization that would partner with FES, as FES would prefer to always have a local collaboration, support, and participation. Three, to develop a concept and arrange for the official launch of the body. Four, to develop a list of topics for public lecture for 2017-2018. And the fifth was to develop terms of reference and arrange for the establishment of a steering committee. Regarding the name, we had few options, and Heiner opted for the name Forum for Experts on Social Protection, which is now abbreviated as FESP. Regarding the partnership, I approached few institutions, including the Namibia University of Science and Technology and the University of Namibia. Dr. Yairos Kangira, the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences at UNAM, responded instantly, and we agreed to work together on this assignment, and I introduced him to FES. In all these endeavors, we were guided by the Social Protection Floor recommendation of 2012, number 202 of the International Labour Organization, that provides to members to establish and maintain, as applicable, social protection floors as a fundamental element of their national social security systems, and to implement social protection floors within strategies for the extension of social security that progressively ensure high levels of social security to as many people as possible. So the first official preparatory meeting of the steering committee was held on 16 November 2016. The initial groundwork that we laid during 2016 culminated into the official launch of the Forum for Experts on Social Protection in Windhoek on Tuesday, 7 March 2017. This occasion was graced with the attendance of Dr. Michael Sisson, and he presented on a topic, economic and social impact of social protection. Dr. Sisson, for those who don't know, was the former director of ILO's Social Security Department. On the same occasion, we held a panel discussion on the topic, future of social protection in Namibia, in light of the current budgetary constraints. The discussants were people like Dr. Michael Akupa, Mahongora Kariua, Mali Lukekela, and others. So the next morning, that's when we started the public lectures. So the launching was on the 7th, the 8th, we had the first public lecture. So now just to give you what FESP is all about, we say it is within a creative, informal, institutional arrangement. So it's informal. 29, you include 9 virtual webinars. In addition, we held breakfast meetings, seminars, and offered training to media practitioners, informal economy operators, workers, and trade unionists. So we had many learned, eminent speakers from around the globe who traveled all the way to Namibia to deliver public lectures and seminars. So it shows you we gained some international recognition. This includes Prof. Evans Kalula, Prof. Alex van den Heevel, Prof. George Mpedi, Prof. Marius Olivier, Dr. Isabel Ortiz, Dr. Ben Mueller, Dr. Laufer, Laura Alves, and Prof. Ntulsi Mbaba is running now for ILO, Secretary General position as we speak. Alas, not all could make provision to this publication. So this much that happened be published in his book. So since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in Namibia in March 2020, FESP changed its modus operandi from public lectures with physical presence to virtual participation. Moreover, the focus and content of webinars tend to have public discourses on pertinent issues relating to COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on many socio-economic subjects. So, for some time, we pondered on a possible publication, and during June 2020, we started to put our heads together to publish a book on public lectures and seminars conducted since FESP inception in 2017. So you know the topic of the book now. So the topic, the overarching aim was to sensitize scholarly dialogue to provide comprehensive perspective on social protection in Namibia and beyond. Using multidisciplinary approach, the publication aims to generate scholarly dialogue and showcase some stimulating discussions and contributions around the topics of social protection, which we ask will be accessible to researchers, activists, policymakers, and emerging scholars. Although not demarcated, we are saying this publication extensively covers aspects relating to the ILO's two-dimensional strategy of horizontal and horizontal and vertical dimensions on the current and possible future development and implementation of social protection flows within a framework of a country-specific institutional resources, socio-economic constraints, aspirations, political circumstances, resources, and priorities. So, before I conclude, let me say that there's cognizance that the publication is not all-encompassing or complete version of all public lectures held. Moreover, there are many relevant topics relating to social protection programs in Namibia that are not covered in this publication. For instance, on vulnerable groups like children, people with disabilities, women and children, older people, and the youth. And other pertinent topics such as on medical care, retirement and pensions, and the impact of the climate change. I'm just throwing out this so that other people realize that there's so much still to be written about. So it's not, this is not the last publication. So ladies and gentlemen, it has been a challenging but a good journey, And we have accomplished that. We are here today to witness the launch of the publication. So thank you all for interest, support, and partnership. We wish you a pleasant night. Thank you. Thank you.
I indicate to you how this book, how the intellectual content came about, and two, to give you the mapping of what this book is all about. We may not have the time to talk about each and every chapter because really that's not the point here. Now, the intellectual content underwent detailed double blind peer review, meaning that this book is authentic in terms of the intellectual content that went into it. It has gone through intellectual scrutiny and rigor and has passed that test. So that's the first point of call. The second is to give you a mapping of what this book is all about. The thrust of this book is underlined by the scholarly and policy discourse that admits that the capitalist global production system has faced a crisis. And that crisis has created social deficits that are clear: poverty, inequality, and unemployment. They are evident. And what is evident also is that global consensus now, there is global consensus around the fact that we need socio-economic transformation as well as sustainable development for everyone, and that no one must be left behind. In that scheme of things, therefore, social protection becomes a critical driver. And that is the context and thrust of how this book evolved intellectually. And so we have 16 chapters in all. And those 16 chapters are divided thematically into 4 themes that locate Namibia within the discourse I've just indicated. That Namibia is said to have had a comprehensive social protection scheme or schemes, or has been held for a while or for a long time, that it has put in place measures that underline the fact that social protection must be a driver where no one must be left behind. But is that the case? The book interrogates that, whether that is the case. And so, if you look at on, I think Roman numeral 9, yeah, you will see a table. You see a table there, and that table shows you the mapping of how we've thematically put through the 4 things that appear to have evolved out of the perspectives. This is the social protection and national development, covering David Kangele's detailed social protection, overview of detailed social protection systems in Namibia towards achieving universal prosperity for all. Then we have chapter 2 by Kolawole, Omowo, and my friend Ndeshi Nampala. They also write on social policy and social protection. In chapter 3 covers Traiwo Kamisopa and Ndeshi Nampala that talk about rethinking and deconstructing social protection in the context of the rising inequalities and what are the lessons and prospects of that. Chapter 4, we bring in the politics of social protection, the issue of the question of whether the state is sanitized to be able to deliver social protection. And this is by Job Ampanda, looking at politics and social protection in the Namibian African context. Then chapter 5 is by Mali. About the issue of implications for fiscal consolidation. I think all of you know that with the challenges of the budget, there are questions of what will happen to social protection in Namibia in the context of fiscal consolidation. And then Vivian also talks about, in chapter 6, on food production and supply during the COVID crisis, lessons and perspective. That's theme 1. Theme 2 covers the question of social protection and informality. And Yuma Vendu covers formalization of informal economy and Namibian policy perspective, interrogating the policy perspective in that context. Then we have Michael Siko Akupa and Joseph Kandege. These look and go deep down to analyze the actual ground experiences of the informal economy in terms of the impact of social protection. Then there she comes in chapter 9, where she brings in the question of social protection and women working in the informal economy in Namibia. Theme 3 covers social protection and labor and employment. Oga looks at labor market interventions, and this is important. And also then Marius, chapter 11, looks at whether unemployment insurance has of value. Chapter 12 is covered by Herbert. He looks at the question of the Isle of Future of Work, interrogates that in the context of Namibia. Then we have Evans Kalula and Theodore. These look at the ILO in the 2nd centuries, looking at the selected African perspectives and the quest of the impact of social protection, the impact of social justice through social protection. Evans Kalula is from Cape Town, and Marius is from Faculty of Law, Nelson Mandela. So that is international experience we brought in there. The last, but not the least, is theme 4, which focuses on social protection and the regional, continental, and global dimension. That where does Namibia lie in the context of the regional, continental, and global dimension? And Comrade Maongora Kalua leads us in one interesting chapter where he maps the social protection and links it to the SDGs and see whether Namibia is achieving that. David Kangele comes again to talk about the question of portability of social protection. This is a regional dimension. You know that Namibia is part of SADC, and there is the question of how is it that if you are working here and you move to another country, how much can you have the right to access your social protection in the context of migrant workers? The last but not least is by John. John is from South Africa. He is Namibian, but teaching at Northwest, attached to University of Northwest. He looks at the African Union agenda and how does Namibia fit into that? And the question of the African Union agenda is Agenda 2063. That is linked to Sustainable Development Goals. And we want to audit the context of how social protection evolves within that kind of context. So this is the map of this book, and it's worth a read. And as you can see, the two blurbs, if you check behind there, there is a clear acknowledgement. We had asked Professor Alex Kanyimba, I don't know whether he's here, to read through, and our own minister, Dr. Michelin. We are grateful, and they give a clear thumbs up about the thoroughness of what this book is and how this book attempts to give the Namibia social protection. So it's worth a read. And so I think I should end there. Thank you. I hope
for me to have an opportunity to share a few remarks at this platform. I would like to begin by congratulating the FESP team for the collaboration work. It is not easy to collaborate a task of this nature across countries, and even more difficult during this time of the year, or when we are faced by challenges such as COVID. I think Master Shigikwa quite eloquently shared the journey of where this book started. One can note that there was an enormous amount of planning, engagement, to see the product we have in front of us today. This is really a dream come true for those who spend nights and days going through volumes of data, doing research to support the facts and to make sure that they present this book or their facts in a scholarly manner. The topic of this nature is quite complex. It cuts across many disciplines, and disciplines which have their own theoretical frameworks, which sometimes do not allow you to bridge or combine it with another discipline. And therefore, in order for you to be able to break through these discipline boundaries of theoretical frameworks, it requires you to do extensive research, to spend a number of hours, days, nights, going through huge amounts of qualitative and quantitative data in order to support your argumentation. Mainly because this information in most cases is not readily available and organized in the way you'd like to deal with it. So there's quite a lot of time spent on this. We are also acknowledge the work of the editors, Mrs. Olga Kashioga and Prof. Kasulubo. Prof, I know these take quite a lot of thinking for you to make these things and present these things in a meaningful manner. I was impressed by your map, and I almost asked you what framework did you use to categorize these chapters into these themes. But all this effort was mainly to make this work accessible, easily accessible to us, the consumers of the book. And I would really appreciate your input. I would like to go back to the complexity of this topic. These topics requires experts from diverse backgrounds to work together in order to make it meaningful. They went and interrogated different issues in a complementary manner to ensure that the book produced the information which is useful to us, to build social discourses which Namibia can use, both the academic, the government, civil society, and the public, to engage in debates which they could further enrich by expanding beyond the topics covered in this book. The editors were talking about the rigorous process of making sure that the book is reviewed through peer review. I think you were not making sure that you are just not putting information out there for the public. You wanted to make sure that the information you share with the public is credible, and if I borrow your word, authentic. And this academic rigor is the foundation which should be guarded by all academics to ensure that what they share with the broader public is indeed a scholarly work of high standard. And it is equally, therefore, the responsibility of academics to at all times ensure that the high standards of research and scholarship are adhered to. Now, lastly, I would like to just make a short remark in terms of the collaboration between Frederick Ebert Stiftung and our Faculty of Education and Human Sciences. The former Faculty of Humanities have been combined with the Faculty of Education, and now we have Faculty of Education and Human Sciences. The two former faculties have become schools within the new Faculty of Education and Human Sciences. Just for those who are not yet familiar with the new structure. I want to assure you, our partners.
Thank you very much, moderator. All protocol observed. Social protection is one of the much needed measures that public institutions adopt to address the plight of the vulnerable members of society. These measures should be appropriately aimed at combating the unacceptable levels of social degradation, thereby ensuring access to education, healthcare, food security, income security, and decent living conditions, among others. Social protection in Namibia is one of the areas that has not received coverage in academic publications. Yet, it is crucial for formulation of developmental programs. The efforts by the Frederick Ebert Stiftung and the University of Namibia is therefore commendable. This book provides a historical perspective of social protection in Namibia and how it is linked to the history of social protection in the world. Historical perspectives are important not only as narratives for providing information about the past and contributing to the literature on history, but also for providing better contextual understanding of the evolution and development of schemes, issues, and circumstances. Policymakers and implementers refer to history when they adjust policies and programs because it is necessary to best understand the underlying motives of having given policies in place. The book presents information on a regulatory framework which reminds policymakers about the constitutional and policy obligations to roll out social protection programs to the populace. This obligation is mandatory because Article 95 of the Namibian Constitution talks about shall, which is a peremptory provision. Now academics have carried out research to examine how the regulatory framework has considerably been realized, what are the gaps, and how best can they be addressed. The book is further academically enriching as it provides scholarly discussions and a conceptual clarification of social protection. And the discussion makes an epistemological contribution to the body and knowledge and truth about the socio-economic intricacies of social protection on the Namibian society and the impact thereof. This is illustrated by, among others, economic perspectives featuring analysis of fiscal sustainability, food security, and informal economy as drivers of social protection. The book provides a sociological perspective of social protection from a socio-cultural outlook and contemporary settings. The discussion on the challenge brought by COVID-19 pandemic are efficient and effective social protection schemes, particularly on women, opens opportunity for further research on gender dynamics of the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the focus as it assists government with the necessary information for targeted policy options. As stated in my blurb, the cover of the book, this publication is useful to policymakers as it appraises them on possible interventions that could be adopted to expand and strengthen social protection schemes. Comparative analysis with trends in the global arena enable academics, researchers, and policymakers to understand not only the workability of the scheme, but also the design of the model that is suitable for Namibia. I hope and believe that this groundbreaking study is just the beginning, and we will have more publications to follow in the subject of social protection. Because you are all academics and you know very well, in the academia, you either publish or perish. I thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Ladies and gentlemen, the both perspectives on Namibia social protection is hereby officially launched.
Okay, so now it's official. The book is officially launched. As you've heard, there's been a lot of work, a lot of effort put into getting to this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so like we can see in the book, the analysis was really looking at the fiscal space in terms of how much the national budget has provided for funds that are going to social sector. Now, within the social sector, looking at those programs that government funds which are talking about social protection. So when we take an analysis of the
past 5 years, of course, we can see that there has been a decline in terms of the budget as a result of fiscal consolidation, where government has consolidated expenditure in responding to some of the pressing issues like reducing the budget deficit. Now, when you look at program level, you can see that there has been a decline in the money that is going to certain programs. This again really reflects the overall fiscal consolidation. What we gather from there is the fact that because the social protection is funded largely by the government budget, whenever there is even a small amount of reduction, it can be felt all over. And this is what we have picked. Now, in terms of looking for alternatives, again, the question that we must also look at is the nature of those that need protection. In the book, we have an analysis on the informality of our economy. What government is providing is for everyone. That is not, there's a component of the formal employees that are protected, their social security, but in the informal sector, which is a large amount, right section of the people that need to be protected, is not largely covered. And if we are to look for alternatives, that is where we must look at. There's been discussion on linking market solution to social protection. That debate is still going on. But over the conference of ILO in June, the ILO adopted the establishment of the Global Social Protection Fund. Now, this fund was tabled also this year in the UN General Assembly. And as a labor sector, we are busy trying to mobilize to see how best can this fund be adopted throughout the globe for it to facilitate the funding for social protection. But with regard to this question also will also very soon be relegated, because with the changing of the nature of employment and labor market, it shows that the physical body to perform specific duty will be reduced to machinery. So we are going to have many people that will be abandoned, and we states by design and the ways it will be obligated to take care of. And that taking care of the citizen is what we call social protection. So it's very important. They can run away. We can have come up with a funny argument, funny excuses not to fund and expand our spending of social protection. But of course, time itself will cut us. So it's better for us to start preparing now, so that when the time is there, we're already prepared. I'm always saying that many people say COVID have find us unexpected and whatever. No, COVID just come and expose our weaknesses. And we have, and I don't think that comes the budget when they going to be tabled next year, there will be any shallow thinking politician to argue that we should not spend more on social protection whatsoever, unless if you are heartless. If you are a committed citizen of the world who want to help those that are vulnerable, we need to join hands and ensure that there is funding space within the physical. So what I want to mention is that the debate is there. There is a fund agreed upon how you're going to operate. That is it. And if you go to Tukna development policy, we also mentioned the issues that how can we be funded by creating a sovereign wealth fund, so that we start already at that level and see how best we move. This is my contribution. Thank you very much.
A round of applause, please. Franz, can we go into the circle, please?
Thank you. My name is Franz Gorike. It's good. I'm happy for the publication. I perused the publication. I see really, in terms of the mind, people have contributed. This is really what one can call the capital that we have in the sector to enrich such a document. But as I'm going through the topic or the theme, I thought a question I asked 2 weeks at IPPR, they launched a publication, Is Decentralization a Reality? So that was the question, and also a topic of art fabrication. It's really to ask the question, to what extent are the policy in this country in line with the reality on the ground? So I'm asking myself again when I'm seeing such a publication and going through all the theme and assembling all the people that contributed to the publication, then I realized there is something is missing, and that is to do with implementation. If we articulate policies as we did, but we don't give a hint on how we should put this policy in place, I think that's where we are failing. And perhaps really comrade Pea Musherenga, this is the main question that we are battling with as a government. Policy documents are lying down in the government offices, but we are not making and make input this policy to be actualized. I think for me, my main appeal is really maybe even in the next publication, perhaps within the context of social protection, or how best, or what are the practical scenarios else we can borrow that we can present to the government in terms of policy implementation. I think for me that is the disconnect in all the work that we do. If we can do something in that line, maybe we'll go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you, Franz. Would anyone like to respond to Franz? Okay, can I call Tuliki to the circle, please?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I don't want to be so formal, so thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. I've been doing a bit of research myself. I'm very passionate about social progression to enhance the livelihood of people, because I believe social security should not just be something, it's not just a policy, it's not just measures that are put in place to help ease the burden of people, but it should be a mechanism or policy that is put in place to make sure that people come out of poverty. Because what I've seen with the social grants and everything, and I'm not saying it's wrong that we have the social grants, I mean, it's good that we have that, but we are creating a dependency theory. A dependency mentality where people become just very docile and comfortable to just be benefiting from this grant, but none of us are really, creating mechanisms that can really help people to come out of poverty. So one of them that I noticed there is a knowledge gap in our country is literature for children regarding social security. It has been very disturbing that there's been an alarming increase of child rape, child exploitation. It's getting out of hand, and I feel there is a shortage of child literature. Children need to be educated about their rights. And small kids nowadays don't even know Article 15 of the Constitution, what it stipulates. Even myself growing up, I didn't know Article 15 until I went to university. That's how bad it is, So there is a shortage of that, and we need to invest in terms of social protection, social security by investing in literature for children, where we educate children so that when they grow up, they will be confident and know their rights in society so that they can be an impact economically and socially and politically. Because these kids that are victims to rape, these kids that are victims to child labor, exploitation, they do not become confident when they grow into society. So we are more focused on grassroots approach on people that are already adults, but we neglect the generation that is the future. So what policy or what mechanism is our government putting to ensure that children for the generation will become something in society? So that was just my remark and just a food for thought. And I really hope that we can also just start focusing on children, because I think we really abandon them a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.